Daniel Gafford's podcast would get more views than us for this edition, for this episode.
Shots drive-by for Gafford. Yeah. Jeez, bro.
I have no idea.
I hope he lives around you.
I'm looking at the mouse.
Welcome to Robos. We're back from holiday, or at least I am. Pro's always working hard over there in the US, doing what he does. But welcome back. Not a whole lot of basketball news NBA-wise. NBL is about to kick off preseason on the Gold Coast. Started a couple of days ago at time of recording, so looking forward to getting to that a little bit later. We'll jump through some NBA stuff, have a chit-chat, and go from there. Pro, what's news? Clean shaven, by the way. Very nice.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I had the Adolf Hitler look this morning. I had it all fully shaved, and I had this little white thing going down my middle of my lip. So I knew you were gonna cop some shit for it. So
sure, the white thing was hair.
I was gonna cop shit. What's up?
Sure, the white thing was hair.
Oh, that's fucked up.
No, maybe you had yogurt for breakfast. Where are you going?
No, I doubt it. Jeez. That's too healthy for me. I mean, I know you're on that extravagant 7-week fucking vacation of yours, so.
I don't know if you can call it a vacation when you take 2 kids under 8 on a holiday with airplanes and hotels. I think it actually contradicts itself after a while. Love them to death.
Yeah, I'm sure the first class flights were fucking it was brutal.
Business.
It was completely brutal. Business.
Oh, the best was
brutal.
Business Europe's the best. We flew from London to Dubrovnik, and we were business. And you get on the plane, Pro. Have you done those Euro flights where business is economy, but there's just a seat in the middle left reserved for you? You're just like,
for sure.
Where's the business section? Just no, the middle seat's your business. You get a little bit more width. Better for you, not for me though.
Without question. I did see that Dirk. I don't know if we talked about it before. That Dirk, he did. I don't know. I forgot what the airline it was, but he did was it Lufthansa? I'm not sure, but he did the business deal where the bed went down to 7 feet. I mean, he was literally in the commercial for 19 seconds. He probably got a $500,000 for it. So, typical
free
NBA
flights.
deal. But
I'll take it.
Yeah. Oh, I'll take it too.
All right, let's get into NBA stuff. Not a whole lot going on, as I said, but there is a little bit of news, some contract signings. Jamal Murray, after a piss poor Olympics, signed a 4-year, $208 million deal. Zubats gets a 3-year, $58 million deal with a trade kicker. It's a smart move by Zub. Loves it there in LA. Gets a little trade kicker in there. Patty Mills, Australian brethren, 1-year deal with the Utah Jazz. So they bring him in probably as a veteran role. Don't see a whole lot of minutes there. Probably bringing him in just to try to, get those young guys to be professionals and all that kind of stuff. I don't think Utah is going to be that good again this season. Tristan Thompson gets a 1-year deal. Who said PEDs don't pay off, bro? You get another deal. Takes the PEDs last season, gets suspended. Gets rewarded with another 1-year deal. So crime does pay at times. Yeah.
Shout out to Clutch getting their guys signed, man. It's unbelievable, brother. He just keeps on ticking. But imagine taking PED. I mean, we're literally working for ESPN. Usually those guys who work for ESPN and then get signed, not many of them, but that was it. 1 year, it's a shit show team. They need a guy. And that's it. This guy went from studio analyst to playing for the last 2 years on these deals. It's incredible.
And he was playing too. It wasn't like he was 12, 13. Yeah. He was getting 6, 7, 8 minutes. Some games playing 15 a night. But good for him. The Murray deal is a no-brainer. The Nuggets can't really do much with what they got with their roster. Zubas deal is a good deal for the Clips and him. I think it's a pretty fair deal, just under 20 a year there. 2 that I found interesting. Evan Fournier rejects a 2-year deal from the Wizards. They wanted him to come in and be a mentor on a bad team. He rejected that, probably I'd guess for less money, and signed with Olympiacos for what is to be a $4 million deal over 2 seasons, so $2 million a year. It's unknown if the contract includes an NBA out. I doubt it would. But interesting, there's starting to be a line of players. I mean, Patrick Beverley's the other one, obviously, but I just think he kind of alienated all his options in the NBA. I think Fournier would have had a few. Cedi Osman also the same, rumored to have some offers. I think the Lakers and a few other teams has signed with Panathinaikos. There seems to be a small amount of players now that are looking towards, I'd rather go to a team in Europe, a little bit less money, but play, feel in a row, be a vital part of that team, playing 25, 30 minutes, rather than going to a team like the Wizards and sucking and being a mentor role. I like kind of what we just spoke about with Patty Mills. So there's been a little bit of a turn with that kind of stuff, bro.
Yeah, it takes a lot out of you, I think, when, since he had the last Olympics, signed with New York.
Mega deal in New York. Yeah, he wasn't a big deal there.
Yeah, huge deal. I mean, that's why you play in the Olympics, to get these types of deals, and especially when you're on the fence. And didn't really get much of a shake in New York. Didn't do much, and basically has been inactive for like almost 2 years. So I know he's in Detroit, and it was in Detroit now. So like, to play for a team that's competing for a EuroLeague championship, getting $2 million, they're going to treat you like a god. You can actually play. You can actually be a big part of their team. Instead of being vet minimum, maybe a little more, and maybe he gets 5 or 6 in Washington D.C. But after taxes, losing 65 games, and then not really playing, and have to like put your arm around a guy who doesn't really care about you anyway. Like, do you really want to do that and deal with that? I think he made the right deal, the right move. If he was going to play, it's one thing, but I would rather play in Europe, get really good money, really compete. And don't forget, folks, you're going to start seeing this more and more. Remember, there's a team in Dubai now. Bertans, I think I read yesterday, they haven't really said officially, but I think he might sign there. I think there's a Dubai team coming in the EuroLeague, if I'm not mistaken. I could be.
I know they're working towards it. I didn't know if it was officially announced, but I think it's
not yet,
close.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think Bertans might have signed a non-guarantee with the Golden State, I think.
No, Davis Bertans received a multi-year deal with newly formed Dubai BC, according to Mark Stein. Contract includes NBA out in case Bertans has to return to
take NBA. That, NBA Central.
You got one. Yeah, but the interesting thing about the Dubai thing is, what do they do with their non-EuroLeague games? Because they've got their own league, which is not a great league. So those guys, it's a pretty good gig. Like, if you're getting it right, you're getting paid just to play in EuroLeague, and that's it. You're not. I assume you're not playing in any other leagues.
You know what you do when you're off time in Dubai? You're like Scrooge McDuck. They got a big vault with gold coins. You dive into the pool and just swim around in it. So that's what they're gonna have. That's what they're gonna have them do.
Yeah, definitely. I was just there not long ago, and it's a wild place. Like, the average Mercedes or BMW is like a 1995 Toyota Corolla in the US or Australia. Like, it's like just normal. All these luxury cars are just it's just the Range Rover.
They're gonna start signing some NBA guys.
100%.
Because there's 100%. Yeah, like some legit. I don't think great NBA players would do that, but I don't know, almost like a Drew Holiday type player. You might be able to get maybe a little less, but you'll get a legit NBA starter, 4th option, maybe even a 3rd option, and they'll pay him whatever they want.
Yeah, I think Drew Holiday is a stretch, but I think
right.
I think maybe a 6-man gunner, maybe, because it's a Saudi Arabia thing, right? With soccer, for those that follow soccer or football. Bringing over some of these guys that are just making bank over there, getting offered $50 to $100 million a season just to play. I mean, they'll do a similar thing with basketball. They're really proud people. They want to get their leagues back on the map at all. They need to start throwing money, but it can be, unless you're in Dubai, maybe Qatar. It can be a pretty tough place to live, and the heat out there is crazy.
So that BC Dubai team is set to join the ABA League, which apparently is one of the top first division league in Croatia and Herzegovina and stuff.
Adriatic.
Yeah. So that they're set to join from this year for the next 3 seasons. So they do have, if they play well enough, they could then play in the EuroLeague.
Yeah, interesting.
Later.
Yeah.
I'm going to use my fact and fake news right now. The 3 players, one of these 3 players will be in the Dubai team come 2027, or a combination of all 3. Kyle Kuzma, Zach LaVine, and DeAndre Ayton. Those are my 3 candidates to get right over there into one of those palaces out there.
Oh, I don't know about that, bro. They'll still be making the way the NBA salaries are going, but there will be someone. It'll be someone early 30s that still has some game left in them that can probably make more over there, double their salary. Yeah,
that's just for over there. Some sheik is gonna, instead of giving his 5th lion a gold-crusted fucking, medallion to wear, he's going to pay Kyle Kuzma $25 million. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's... And if they're going to go over there and drop 80 a game for the first couple of seasons, it's going to, until other teams follow up. So, will be interesting. Mike Malone, pro. some reports coming out that Mike Malone and the Denver Nuggets front office are not seeing eye to eye. Keep in mind, Malone signed an extension with the Nuggets early in the 23-24 season that reportedly runs through to the end of the 26-27 season. This isn't shocking, Pro, and I think Mike Malone has a right to be somewhat frustrated, but this is the way the salary cap system works. We spoke about it months ago. The Nuggets are kind of handicapped with what they can do. You know, you have Jamal Murray now signing that extension, what they had to do. Even if he's on 1.5 leagues, you had to do that because you can't replace him. They signed Porter Jr. in that big deal. They brought in Aaron Gordon on a big deal, and Jokic is on the Supermax, correct? So it doesn't leave you a lot of room. The apron of having to keep, I think KCP was the big one that pissed off Mike Malone. I think they were, they just couldn't keep him because it was going to cost him 2 or 3x his salary because of the way the salary cap system works. Season before, they lost
Bruce
Brown to Indiana. So a couple of the integral parts of what their soul was were gone. That were great pieces around those big three or big four, if you want to call it, had. And now I guess the front office, I'm reading between the lines, is probably like, you got Braun. That's going to be a guy that you want to move to, and I think Mike Malone's like, he's not ready to have a 25-30 minute role, and that's what I think it's stemmed from, and these not seeing eye to eyes can be a good thing as well, as long as it's done in a respectful way. But this generally goes pear-shaped, as Pro probably agree with, is if shit does hit the fan, if they start off 500. You got finger pointing starting, then it becomes much more bigger than it is. Right now, it's just some off-season scuttle, but I think I'm in Malone's corner. I think Denver probably should have went and tried to go over that cap a little bit. Historically, they haven't been that team. They haven't been a team that wants to go over the cap, and they are a small market, whether you like it or not. But Malone's point probably is our window's small to compete for championships. And do we want to go back to the Denver Nuggets of old where we're, okay, second round, that's a win? Or do we want to go back to having a chance to win another one? So how do you see all that, Pro?
It's a normal thing now, I think. Not many. You look at like the Boston Celtics and some of the teams that are really successful, Golden State, back in their runs too. You always saw a collaboration. Those guys are hand in hand. But I would say about 70% of the teams in the NBA, there's not really a synergy like that between the front office and the coach. Look, Mike Malone won a championship. He's a hard-nosed guy, very prideful in his coaching. And then you've got a front office. Look, the front offices now are in control of most of these teams as far as the coaching staffs, how they're selected, how you develop your players, all that stuff is categorized is run through the front office. And as a coach, especially one that won a championship, you probably want a lot to say. You want to do like the NFL, in the United States, where a lot of the times the head coach makes the decision of who signs for what. They're the GM and coach, but it's really not done like that. The days of GM and coach, it's been a disaster in most cases, except maybe San Antonio, when the head coach is selecting the players and has all the say. So look, it's tough sometimes, but look, I pointed this out a couple of summers ago when they lost Bruce Brown and now KCP, and it's going year in and year out. They're losing, teams are losing that one guy, not to go over the cap. My thing is with this new TV deal, coming in a couple of years where, a lot of more money is going to be fluxing into the league. Take your hit now and then just sort of smooth it out. You'll make the money up, especially what these teams are worth anyway. But when
the problem is the worth is the clubs that don't want to sell, the owners that don't want to sell. It's a paper gain. It doesn't help your immediate cash flow. That's a problem. So it's like, if you plan on keeping the team for your kids and your grandkids and keeping it like that, the value of your club doesn't really help you unless you're going to sell off some stake, which a lot of them don't. That's where it's an issue. For a small market, at least, that's where the struggles become. Okay, can we afford to pay a $60 million luxury tax bill when maybe our profit last season was 40?
Yeah, this guy's got a net worth of $10.7 billion and owns a house on top of the arena in Denver. So
You'll be right.
Yeah, I think he can afford it a little bit. But I understand what you're saying, and totally, like, you got to just sort of deal with it sometimes. And the problem is they won a championship. It was like a perfect storm, and now they're losing, like, slowly but surely losing these guys, and they're sort of, you know, also like Jeff Green was a big loss from a couple of years ago. So now you go from there to now, like, Peyton Watson, Braun, rookie Trey Alexander, Julian Strawther, and Najee has to play a lot more minutes than usual instead of those other guys. DeAndre Jordan's another year older, you know. So, like, you're shuffling out these rotation players that, yeah, like, they kept their starters for the most part in check besides KCP, but yeah, you've got your top four basically in stone. But it's those rotation players. As you know, those guys really win you championships, especially deep in the playoffs. If injury happens or foul trouble happens and you got to play more minutes, you're replacing these veteran, solid players with these more unproven players that maybe aren't ready for that. But that's where your coaching staff really has to take a step up in their developing players and getting the minutes and sort of fast tracking this player development a little faster than usual, instead of like year 3, year 4 being those mid to late first round picks, you know, trying to compete in 4 years or 3.5. You got to get these guys ready by the 18th month of the second season. But I could see where Mike Malone's frustrated, but usually it's a lack of communication. And, you know, look, it always comes down to ego. It always comes down to everybody wants one leg power over the other. And, you know, it gets to that, but they need to smooth it out, man. I mean, look, just have a conversation, but, you know, it's a lot harder than that. Like, look, Mike Malone, he's a tough dude, man. And, you know, front office, they won a championship. So everybody thinks they have more to do to the championship than the other side. And both those guys got to collaborate and work together because, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's a tough one. And this will only get bigger if they struggle. That's the MO of the NBA and professional sports, is when things don't start flowing, when things aren't going well, team starts losing, the front office is going to say, I got you the players, your coaching is shit. And the coach is going to say, you didn't get me the players, this roster's shit. And then you got the owner sitting on top of that trying to be like, oh, fuck, like, which one of you guys should I side with? Pro always says, who can get to the owner's ear first? Is it the GM or the coach? And that plays keen to all of these kinds of things. And then it becomes a wild, wild west. It's kind of a sinking ship. Like, who can get into the owner's ear first is your lifeboat. And generally whoever does can save their job and get the other guy fired. And then, you know, it runs its course.
I mean, their most important thing right now is keeping Jokic happy. Because, look, you could replace Murray, as we know, is very replaceable. Aaron Gordon, very replaceable. Porter, very replaceable. Westbrook, definitely replaceable. The one part that you can't rearrange the deck chair, so the Titanic with, is Jokic. It's going to be for the next 6 or 7 years at least. You got to keep him happy, because the minute he's like, this is a shit show, fuck this, and he's out, that whole fucking thing flatlines, because it doesn't matter. So they got to keep him motivated. Both sides got to come to some type of a true, you know, it's got to be a, you know, it's like the Battle of Achilles, right? You got to, you got to take 3 or 4 days off of war to collect the dead. Like, you got to have a no fire zone for a while. Get this thing going. Look, I don't like you. You don't like me, but we got to work together on this. But it's always going to be that, Bogues. Look, I coached them. Oh, but I get you the players. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, you can't prove either one. They're both very important. But look, the most important person there is Jokic. And
I'd assume he's pro Mike Malone too, heavily. You know,
sure. Why wouldn't he be?
Yeah, I think an easy fix for the owner, if he's got a house above the arena, would put a horse racing track around the arena. Get Jokic a couple of fillies.
He should do it on top of the arena right by his house. I mean, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But
the snow might affect things here in Denver, but that's probably, you're right. I mean, Giannis is kind of the same boat. Jokic, they're getting older. They've won a championship. I those two guys especially, I look at and I say, if they get frustrated in the next season or two, you could see some rumblings of them wanting to get out. And that comes down to roster build. It comes down to, is your owner willing to spend? You know, if you had a Jokic in one of the big market LA teams or New York, the spend would be astronomical to keep that guy happy and to milk that championship. That's the problem. I mean, it's a separate topic, but maybe, you know, this plays into the big markets being able to afford to do that. The smaller markets, not as much. Is the kind of the floor system right now, does it still hinder when small market teams do really well? Who knows? But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and the biggest problem there, Bogues, is besides Jokic, there's not really a lot of value there you're going to get back. I think after the Olympics and sort of the up and down years Murray's been having the last year or so, he doesn't have much value. His contract now, you know, that's a huge number. Porter definitely doesn't have much value as far as what you're going to get back. And then Aaron Gordon's a solid player, but he's not getting you much. So you get this one guy that's worth a fortune, one of the, you know, the best, if not one of the top 2 or 3 best players in the league. You know, he's got tremendous value. But these other guys, because of their contracts and their deals and maybe an injury history or maybe just a lack of skill, like to, you know, not on the downside of their careers, but, you know, with what they're worth as far as their contract versus their talent level, you're not getting a lot back. So a lot of these other teams, they can move other pieces, get a lot back, and then still keep it going. I don't think Denver can do that just because of the deals they gave these guys and what their real true value is in the league. Jokic is their one guy. The only other guy coming off the bench is Peyton Watson that has like Dorian Finney-Smith type talent that will probably be a $15 or $16 million guy going forward. But you can't say that about anybody else in their roster going past their top 5. So it'll be interesting going forward how they sort of keep this thing going.
Yeah, and don't forget they got Westbrook. So I'll give you an early fact or fake news. Westbrook, fact or fake news, he plays more than 22 minutes a night for Denver.
Woo! Oh, man. I'm saying fact because, A, he's a veteran, you know, and I think Malone's pro-veteran versus pro-rookie or young unproven. And they're going to need him to play. I mean,
I agree. Like I think he's going to play. I think he's going to play minutes.
Yeah.
Because their roster's young and inexperienced at the tail end. They've now lost KCP as well. I think Westbrook's probably really the only guy, when you include those big 4, that has oomph in his game. Like Gordon, probably a little bit. Porter's a cruise control kind of flow guy. Murray's a cruise control. Jokic plays at his own tempo. Westbrook's really the only guy out of that group that like will run through a brick wall or like bring some pace to the game, right? So I think he's going to fall into some minutes. I think people forget he's he can't shoot. He's an awesome cutter. He's a really good cutter off the ball.
Yeah.
He moves well off the ball. Jokic is going to do a really good job. I guarantee you they're going to have some lob stuff set up for Westbrook. They're going to have some back cut stuff set up. He'll get a lot of cheap buckets that way. And he plays 82 games. Like he's one of those guys that doesn't get hurt, plays ball to the wall for all his minutes. So I'm going overs. I think he's going to have a good season.
Yeah, I agree because he did not end the season well with the Clippers, with the playoffs. He was unplayable, in my opinion, with his lack of shooting, his turnovers. You know, and like you said, he goes 1,000,000 miles an hour. He goes hard. You know, he's a tough dude. He gives you every ounce of talent that he's got. He pours it on the floor. The problem is the lack of shooting, which is amazing to me, but the guy really hasn't, you know, tackled off-season shooting deal. And, you know, and he's been in the league for 13, 14 years. But yeah, like I agree, they're going to need him. They're going to have to play him off the ball because Murray's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. But, I mean, the cutting off of Jokic, getting out in transition, he's got to be able to find easy points because he can't really get him in the half court with the ball in his hands.
And I think he will. I think this
anymore.
system pro suits him so much better because I think when you put Russ on a team that's got ISO guys, Harden, Paul George, and you know Russ goes stand in the corner, it kills him. He even needs to be the number 1 guy on a team like that, like the Clippers, because he's got the usage. You play him off the ball, his game it's just not useful. But in Denver, when you can throw it to that big 7-footer who's one of the best passers to ever play the game, you know, okay, you want to cheat off Westbrook and clog the paint, and then all of a sudden he blindside back cuts. They're going to find him this time. So I think that system in Denver, even with Murray going ISOs, you got so many guys that can play off Jokic, throw it to him, split cut with Aaron Gordon. I think it's an underrated signing by Denver. And they're kind of restricted by what they can do. But I'm high on him this season, even though he's had a couple of poor seasons. Did you see this, Pro? NBA award voters, so the people that vote on the NBA awards, are now, as of today, prohibited from betting, Pro. So, is that right, Trent?
Yep.
So what the fuck happened in the last 15 years? Like, so you could just bet. So they got,
so you can't bet on who gets an award, or
no. So if you're an NBA voter, so you're one of the voters on MVP or All Defensive Team, one of the media voters, they've just put a statement out saying there's a rule, you now cannot bet on who's going to win those awards.
I mean, look, you've been around enough of these beat writers. They know, the good ones, they know everything that's going on in that team. So you're telling me in the last 15 years or so, you weren't allowing these guys.
But us as players had to sit through this fucking NBA betting shit every year. Yeah. Like, hey, don't bet. If a bookie approach, like we had to sit through this stuff every season, getting lectured to. Yeah. Hey, if your uncle at a barbecue asks, hey, I heard Steph rolled his ankle, what do you think? Don't tell him, they could be betting. That's the kind of shit they used to tell us. And now it comes out that so the last 15 years, these people that had the actual votes could bet. Like, it just,
wow.
That's absolutely amazing to me.
That's from Jared Greenberg. And it was released by the NBA PR team. So basically, NBA award voters are now officially prohibited from making wagers on NBA award categories during any season in which they are voting.
It seems like they kind of missed the boat on that one about 15 years. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. That's like a head coach betting on who's going to get the most minutes. On his team. Like, it's just,
and you got an MVP vote. Look, you it's only one, but look, and you probably talk to other people. You get all this inside information. They have way more inside information on multiple locker rooms of what's going on a nightly basis versus like a player worried about them gambling. Although obviously we have to worry about that too. But
John St. Porter, one lifetime ban, right? Some would say right decision, some would say wrong, whatever, but lifetime ban. You got, media need to be held to that same, and what's funny? When there's that random one player that gets an MVP vote and everyone's like, what the fuck? It's like fucking some got like, random name got.
Yabusele.
Not that they could, I wonder if they can bet. Imagine they bet on like, I bet you this one random guy's going to get one MVP vote. What are the odds? 501. I'll place that bet, and then they vote for him.
I'm sure there's guy again. I'm not a gambler, so I don't know. But like, I wondered if there's like over under, over under amount of votes a player gets for the MVP vote. I wonder if there's 12 or 6.5.
I'm sure
votes
you can bet on anything. I wonder if you could bet on that. If it's a random player, like I just said, I'm exaggerating a little bit. If someone's put like 10 grand on, someone who's the seventh man to get an MVP, and they're going to get at least one vote, and then they get a vote, it's going to ring alarm bells that they'll figure out what's going on, kind of like how they busted Porter with everything going on. But in other stuff, like you said, to swing a vote, one or two votes, or to go over under 6.5 MVP vote, whatever it is, it's definitely doable. So, anyway, it's just, I don't even know why they'd put that statement out, because I think it hurts their cause more than it helps it. Like saying that, hey, you're now prohibited. So my conspiracy theory yourself is what the hell happened in the last 15 years?
Without question.
Yeah, good news for you. The Dallas Mavericks announced a multi-year broadcast deal. Is it Tegna? Is that how it's pronounced? Or Tegna? Tegna. I don't know how it's pronounced.
Tegna, probably.
Yeah, but they got to televise games over the air for free, Pro. So you get to see your beloved Mavericks now. For those not familiar,
there's a couple of
Pro was blacked out of his home team.
3 or 4 years.
Because they were with who was it, Bally Sports, and then they went under.
Bally Sports, yeah.
And the company went bankrupt.
Yeah, it used to be Fox Sports, so I'm used to be getting all these games. So I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then they blacked me out because I got YouTube TV. Well, actually, we had Frontier, and then I've got YouTube TV. Neither one has Bally, so I can't watch any games. You have to get the VPN, like you said. But yeah, it's nuts, man. I'm glad. But there's a couple of teams now that are doing. I forgot who else did it, where they're broadcasting basically for free. Which, I'm interested to read into that model of why they do it this way. Maybe because of the broadcast rights, they get so much money they don't really care. But I'm sure it's something else. But that Bally's deal, because there's a lot of cable subscribers out here, cable systems and things that don't have Bally's on there, and they're going bankrupt. And so I'm glad that it's making the switch. I hope I actually get it. I may not even, my luck, I probably won't even get it again.
Oh, you should get it. Just put an antenna on your roof, man. Go old school. It's good news. You can watch hopefully maybe another championship push. We'll see. There's a lot going on in Dallas, especially with Clay there and that. I saw a video of Clay yesterday pop up on my Instagram. He looks in very good shape. He looks like he's slimmed out a fair bit. So it's going to be the fuse to light under a guy and get him another 3 or 4 years at an elite level. So maybe a good thing should be a good thing for Clay. I think he's going to come in motivated. It's probably a bit top heavy the last couple of seasons, obviously coming off multiple injuries, but he looked in really, really good shape as far as just body mass, just look more slim and slender. So
you think it's a better system for him where he is in his career now in terms of like not having to move as much as he did in Golden State, like with Luka and Kyrie on the ball in the fashion they are, like he's going to get more just spot up opportunities
and probably a little bit less pressure. He's not the solidified number 2 now that he should have been, because everyone was still waiting in Golden State, like you're the Splash Brother, like waiting for it, and it just didn't happen after the injuries, like anyone would have liked, right? And everyone's so used to the old Klay Thompson, well, he's off an Achilles and a knee, that now being the third option, sometimes fourth if PJ's hot or someone else is hot, I think it's a perfect situation for him. Less tolling on the body. They play at a pretty fast tempo generally, so him running down the wing, even when they go ISO, you put him on a wing or a corner. I mean, the thing with Clay is if he catches, he's going to shoot it. So if they throw it to him, he's getting it up. Like there's no in between there. But and he's still, he's not an elite defender like he once was because he just can't move as well. But he's still a pretty high IQ. Got size as a defender. Underrated. He's 6'7". So we used to put him on Chris Paul and these kind of guys, and he would just cause problems because he's got length, doesn't quit on plays, and he's strong enough to get around screens. So. I like it. I think Dallas have a chance to get something out of him, especially now, motivated, probably back against the wall type mentality for him. So I like it. I just saw the video and thought, man, he looks like he's in good shape. I hope he's a great dude. Hope he has a great season. Finishing off, Indiana Fever have clinched a playoff berth for the first time since 2016. So, Caitlin Clark, we're not going to have official stats segment just because there's not a lot of NBA and stuff going on, but she's breaking all kinds of records. I'll read through a couple of them for you. She's played in just 38 WNBA games and already has more triple-doubles than 99.63% of players in league history. First player with 30, 12, and 5 3-pointers made in WNBA history. Most threes by a rookie in a single WNBA season, 86 threes and counting. Fastest player in WNBA history to record 500 points, 200 assists in a single season. So just, unbelievable numbers. I think, it's been fun to watch her rise. She's just an absolute bucket. Fun to watch. Team's doing well. Good for her.
And don't forget, they started at like 1-7 or 1-8 or something like that.
Hard, awesome comeback. Yeah.
And I think she's sort of now adapting the Steph Curry game where she's getting off the ball a lot, getting it back later in the possession and sort of not just sort of jacking up shots. I mean, she's finally getting her 3-point shooting up. I mean, she was making, I think the average 3-point shot she was making or even taking, I think taking is like 28 feet. So she was shooting about 31% from 3 for most of the season, which obviously isn't a great number, but she was making a decent amount. But now she's just passing the ball. She's got shooters. I mean, I watched their team a little bit, even before she got there last year and what they've been doing. But the coach is finally knowing how to use her better. I think she's just getting used to the league. It's obviously different than college, but yeah, she's been fun to watch. Obviously, putting a lot of energy into that league, a lot of money into the league, and a lot of eyeballs, most importantly. So, they've been making the playoffs. Like I said, they were in dire straits the first 10, 15 games of the year, and I think finally she's understanding how to be successful in that league, not only putting up points and numbers, but also doing the other stuff. So it's been cool to watch.
And it's similar to the trajectory, kind of Steph Curry's path, is that I think she was laboring at times on the ball, trying to ISO and find her shot. I think now, I don't know if it's part of coaching or her teammates, but she's happy to get off the ball. And that's where she becomes, in my opinion, just as dangerous, if not more, because she just moves so well off the ball. You can cause a lot of problems and open up teammates with slip cuts and whatnot. And that's what Steph started to do for Golden State when I was there. It was, he would give the ball up and just be a menace off the ball, and then I would get an easy dunk. Draymond Green would get an easy dunk. And I think that's where they've figured out that flow where she doesn't have to labor on the ball. Because, when you're on the ball, people are up and in, it's tiring, it's more taxing. When you can get off it a little bit and still be able to move around, create some space for yourself, then recatch it on the move, I mean, it's a different beast.
And as much as her shot making is phenomenal, Bogues, I think, seriously, in my opinion, her number one skill is her passing. I mean, her vision and being able to pass the ball, how she does it and finding players, not just like, making that extra pass for a 3-point shot. I'm talking about drawing double, triple team, and then just spotting that cutter, spotting that open player, like making unbelievable reads. I mean, it makes it easier. She doesn't have to like earn it on every possession where she's got to like take the shot. She could give it to other people, draw that second defender, kick to a wide open player or a cutter, or have great vision and spotting and getting the ball, going in transition. So they had the number one pick the year before, if I'm not mistaken, or 2 years before, this big girl Boston out of South Carolina. And so she's using her well. She's got this shooter Mitchell that she uses, so she gets off the ball, makes cuts. Like that's what Steph was so great at, getting off the pick and roll early and then just cutting to the other side, coming off a pin down, using split cuts, cutting to the basket. So yeah, she's pretty effective. So yeah, it's been really cool to watch.
Just to see how they go in the playoffs. All right, touching on some NBL stuff right now. I'll get Trent in this one. Fair bit going on. Obviously, the preseason NBL Blitz is kicking off. Was kicked off a couple of days ago on the Gold Coast at time of recording. So all that's going on. So by the time you listen to this, there'll be some results there. But still a lot of teams that aren't full strength. They're trying different things, young guys, injuries, all that. So don't take too much into the preseason, but some definitely can see how the flow goes and how teams are playing. We'll start off with Adelaide 36ers, and the Nostrabogus has to come out again, Trent, because before I went on my hiatus over to Europe, we spoke about the Adelaide 36ers signing 2 very overly credentialed assistant coaches, I said at the time. And maybe you can splice up the audio from that, but I said this is ringing alarm bells for me. And if I'm Scott Ninnis, I'm looking over my shoulder because they got 2 guys that could easily be head coaches. One from the Serbian national team, the other is it Mike Wells? I think is the other one. Yeah, well credentialed American that's been all over the world, being involved in the NBA. So ring alarm bells with that. What I didn't realize was that the firing would happen in the off season. within a couple of months of hiring their head coach, Scott Ninnis. So that has happened. The Adelaide 36ers have moved off Scott Ninnis. They have promoted Mike Wells to the head coach. I thought it would have been at least, maybe December. Adelaide's 500. There's some rumblings, but they do things over there differently in Adelaide, and it has caused an uproar. There were rumors that there was an in-team player protest. I'm not sure if there's any truth to that, but some people had mentioned that players refused to train. At one point, they got told just kind of nonchalantly in a weight room. So it wasn't handled greatly internally. Whether it was the right decision or not, whether Adelaide saw something that we didn't with Ninnis, that's up to them. And I've got no problem with teams making these decisions. I've just probably, where I would look is they shouldn't have rushed to sign him anyway. They lost out on Gorgon early on in the off season. That's well noted. They pivoted within a week of signing or hiring interim coach Scott Ninnis. I think at that point you probably go back to market. You let Ninnis interview again, and you run the process and take your time. They had the whole off season. I just don't understand why they jumped so quickly. I think it was a panic move for them. Oh shit, we've lost our guy in Gorgon. We're going to pivot to this. And it just hasn't ended well for anyone. So there has been some interesting happenings since then. I don't know if you followed it, but Brett Maher has now distanced himself from the LA 36ers, former teammate of Ninnis's, was pretty, not heavily involved with the 36ers, but did some things here and there for him. I've also noticed that they've launched their own basketball camp company, running basketball camps in Adelaide. And what's interesting about that is they've scheduled them at the exact time as the Adelaide 36ers camps for kids. so some, and I think they'll probably get more people, to be honest. They're pretty well liked people in the basketball community in Adelaide, but I think that's their shots to get back at Adelaide. So, Brett Maher's obviously a legend of the Adelaide 36ers. You never want to see things go down this route, but Adelaide in a bit of trouble with all the off-court stuff.
Yeah, it just sounds like communication though, right? Like if they just handled it in a professional manner and like you said, they did hit the panic button. So I don't know. There's not too much to add on it. Like I just feel like if they were a bit more patient, had done their proper due diligence and looking to replace that head coaching position once they lost out on Gorge, like this whole situation just would have been avoided.
Yeah. I've never. I don't know. I'd have to look it up, but I've never seen a coach get hired in the off season and fired in that same off season. I don't.
That's got to be unprecedented. Yeah,
it's got to be. I'm interested, listeners. I mean, AFL, NRL, basketball, all leagues in the world. Let us know if you've ever seen a club hire a coach in the off season, full tether. You're a head coach. Here's your contract, and then fire him with, albeit unless they've done something illegal. You know, like obviously in trouble with the law, drink driving, whatever it is, domestic violence. Of course, fired. But obviously, Dennis has done none of those things. I don't think I've seen this happen in the NBA. Not that I know of. Just wild. But if you're a head coach, Adelaide's a spot that they're paying a lot of head coaches. I think a few of them have finally come off the books, but at one point they were paying 3 head coaches and had 1 working for them. So there's another one to add to the books, and hopefully, you know, Ninnis is. I read that there was some issues with him trying to get a payout, and that might not happen the way he wants to. He should be paid out if he signed a contract. So
yeah, he did a press release saying that his lawyers have gotten involved and stuff. So
yeah, I'm not sure what the standing Adelaide have. Maybe have to read the fine print of the contract, but generally, if you're firing a coach that's signed a 2-year contract, you got to pay that 2 years out, unless he gets another. You can't double dip, right? So if he gets another deal, but he's purposely just waited out. Luke Travers signs with the Cavs on a 2-way. So, you know, great last season for him in the NBL. He's continuing to grow as a player. We can see if he can make that jump from a 2-way onto a roster spot. But has a size and athleticism. It all comes down to 3-point shot for him. So if he's knocking down that 3-point shot, which has gotten better, much better from where it was in Perth to Melbourne, I think his confidence is getting better. He's putting the work in. So it's great to see a guy like that go over and get a roster spot.
Yeah, for sure. And you saw glimpses of it in the G League this year, and I think that's what earned him the 2-way finally. It kind of put him over the line to at least get that opportunity for the 2-way contract. So, yeah, like you said, it'll be interesting if he can continue to make those improvements and then earn himself like a full-time roster spot.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree. Kane Glitter retires. He was on the 2019 team, the Boomers and myself, when we beat the US in Melbourne. Great guy, quiet, never any issues with him, shot the piss out of the ball. I think was a very, very good NBL player for a long time. I think he's up there in the records, 2 or 3-point shots made. He's one of the all-time numbers there as far as 3-point shooting. So congratulations to him. I think towards the end of his career, body started to break down a little bit like we all do, and he's moved on. So we wish him all the best. I don't know if you've got any stories about him or anything, but
nothing crazy. But in terms of 3 points, I think in the 40-minute era, because Gazy's era is a bit inflated, but third all time.
Yeah. So I mean, great numbers. Good on Cam. Cairns Taipans player Jackson McCoy accepted sanctions determined by Basketball Australia, having recently been charged for driving under the influence in the Gold Coast. 8 games, 6 of those suspended. The only reason I bring this up is, look, everyone makes mistakes. He needs to learn from this and not be silly, especially in the days of Uber and all that. I just don't understand why you would do this, but we all make mistakes when we're young and dumb, not judging him upon that. The reason why I bring this up is Gary Clark had a similar charge, I believe, last season leading into the NBL playoffs and got exactly how many games, Trent?
I believe none.
None. He got none. I think he got a suspended sentence. And I don't think he's even in the league this year. So, but just the double standards. I mean, Basketball Australia, NBL. I mean, NBL passes the buck to BA to handle the integrity side of things. BA is going to have a bit more consistency with this. I mean, it's the off season, so it's easy for us to suspend him. It'll only be the start of the season, but when it's a team that's in the playoffs, a vital player for him does it, gets no games and suspended, sent games only. It's not good. Not good with your policy. If you're going to have a policy, it needs to be the same. And yeah, just something for Basketball Australia to think about there, that it's pretty glaring that there was a double standard. Australian wing, say that again for me, Roman
Sulepa.
Yeah, Sulepa. I've got to get that right. Australian wing Roman Sulepa and the Tasmania Jag Jumpers had agreed on a mutual release from his next stars contract. This was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, a month ago. Interesting. You know, the rumors were that he was carrying an injury, was flying in and out to Tasmania to do workouts. I think they were sending someone up here, and then wanted to go back to play rugby for his high school team, wanted to finish that year off. I think the Jack Jumpers, Scott Roth, were like,
tap on the shoulder. You're a professional athlete now. We're not risking your body in a rugby game, mate, when we're paying you on an X-star salary and you've got a chance to be an NBA player one day. Like, WTF, what are you thinking? And I guess maybe a bit argy-bargy there, and Tasmania just said, you're not fitting into what we want to do here. We don't think that there was some scuttlebutt around commentary like, are you really dedicated to be a professional athlete at this point? And they thought no. That's what that came down to. So if that's the case, look, we're all young, we're all dumb. We only go to high school once, but Roman does need to understand that he's got a chance to be an amazing player, got a chance to be an NBA player. Next star's contract, people are investing money in, which is the NBL in Tasmania. You got to put all that shit aside. That's just the kind of trade-off when you're a professional athlete. I remember going to college and going on to the NBA and always looking, talking to mates or being back home in Australia. They're on the piss on a Saturday night having a barbecue, and you just can't go because you've got training Sunday morning, or you've got this, or you've got national team, or you've got camp next week. I can't go out and be silly. They're the trade-offs that then you become, you get a reward for that towards the mid to tail end of your career with an NBA contract and money and all that kind of stuff. But you have to kind of give things up, and I think this is a harsh lesson for him, especially because rosters are pretty much, all set. Where he ends up, who knows?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I covered Roman at both the under 18s and under 20s level, and last year for under 20s, he was the MVP as a bottom major. Like, under 20s is a 3-year age group, so to go in as a 17-year-old and be considered the best player in the nation is pretty impressive.
Yep.
And what he was able to do against some pretty strong Victorian sides over his junior career with Rocco is just pretty impressive. So it is a shame to see that he isn't as dedicated as you'd probably like to see him, but I imagine the Blitz being on the Gold Coast, there'd be a couple of teams probably taking this opportunity to meet with him and see, because if he's still looking to sign that next star contract, I'm pretty sure both Adelaide and Cairns have a next star spot available. And, I still...
Melbourne as well?
Yeah, I've double checked, but I'm yeah, they do.
And the salary's offset, so the league generally will cover a massive portion of it. It's 50%. It's generally negotiable, but they'll cover half of it.
So I don't think it's out of the question he plays NBL basketball this year, but I think it will be very much dependent on where his injury's at and if he's ready to go. Because I don't know, you probably know better, but if an NBL club would be willing to sign him if he's harboring a shoulder injury.
Well, I think you could. It just depends on if you're out of the season, different story. If it's something that's a 6 to 8 weeker, you sign him, and you can put protections in there that if you don't come back healthy, only get a portion of your salary. There's heaps of things you do with the contract, but when you factor in a next star's contract, it gets a bit tricky. And he needs to play somewhere. And these are the harsh realities of when you go from being a junior to jumping into the pros. It's daunting with the time commitment you have to put forward. And I think Roman's a prime example of probably a guy that, I don't know his work ethic, I haven't been around him, but seems like a guy that just had that uber talent all throughout juniors for the most part. Man-child, big body, strong, physical, athletic. Probably didn't have to put in as much time as other players to get to the next level. And now it's like, holy shit, that's a massive jump. Let's say, I was doing 8 to 10 hours, if that. Now I need to do 20 to 30 on not just basketball, but basketball, video, physio, especially now with shoulder injury, rehab, strength and conditioning, all the extras you got to do, diet. So probably like, holy shit, his head's probably spinning. You don't have time to mess around with your mates. You don't have time to do all that. And that's the trade-off. And I think that's where, good young players can make that transition. I've seen a lot of players in my time that were more talented than I was in juniors. Like, coming up, there was guys that were super, super talented, but that was a part they couldn't make that jump. They couldn't make that commitment to continue to put the time and effort in because they had it so easy. Under 12, under 14s, always the man, athletic, physical, just naturally came. When it was like, no, you need to commit yourself to this, they just struggle to do it. I just hope it's not the case for him because he has all the talent and athleticism. Let's just hope he can bottle in some of that work ethic.
Yeah, and he's shown it on the world stage too. Like, this isn't just isolated to him dominating in Australia. He's gone to multiple international tournaments with Rocco and that under 18s team and showed that he's the best, if not the second best player on the Australian team as well. So, like, there's no question to that. And he's shown small improvements when he first played his NBL 1 season 2 years ago. 6 points a game. I think he kind of struggled, like you said, making that jump. And then last year jumps up to 20 points a game. showed that he'd improved his 3-point shot. It looked like he had gone and, taken some time to work on his game. But then again, what you're touching on, that jump to the NBL again is then
another
one. So it's just whether or not he's willing. And like you said, he's still a kid.
Is he 18 yet?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Close.
I think
he's got plenty of time.
He's in his final year of high school. So like you said, plenty of time. But yeah, like you said, it's a commitment with himself and whether or not he is really ready to be a professional or not.
And that's why, historically college has been such a good option for kids, because it throws you in that lion's den immediately. Like you got to go to class, then you got this, then you got your schedules planned out for you. So then when you transition to the pros, there's actually less time in college than there is in the pros. That was what I loved about it. I got out of college and I was like, you get back from training with the Milwaukee Bucks, we finish at 1 or 2, I'm home, and it's like, done. No class, no homework, no extracurricular activity you have to do, nothing you have to do for the college or the university. So that's where it prepares you really well. Whereas, some of these kids coming from high school where, let's be honest, if you're probably a high-end athlete in high school, you're not getting prodded too much, probably getting a bit of favoritism with handing stuff in late, being late to class, all that kind of stuff. That's the way of the world, unfortunately. That is probably a big jump, but you wish him all the best. I mean, like I said, he's got all the tools, just needs to put the work ethic in. Final one, Brian Goorjian, a couple of weeks ago, formally had said that he will be done with the Boomers. He will not put his hand up again. So they're obviously in a review process now of the current campaign, which obviously is deemed as a failure. Whenever you don't finish, with a medal chance, I think with the roster that we have, it might be harsh, but you deem it as a failure, and you should. If you're a player or coach, you should deem that as a fire for the next campaign. Be interesting to see what route Basketball Australia takes with this. I think there's a lot of names out there. There's a lot of twists and turns. There's people that are pro hire someone on Australian soil that knows our guys. There's people that are saying the NBA guys need NBA coaching talent to come over and coach because they won't respect the NBL guys. I've even got one out of left field. He's maybe going over to Europe and talking to some coaches from over there. I think the FIBA game, I think it takes coaches a campaign or two to figure out the FIBA game. I don't think you look at Steve Kerr's struggles. Like, I mean, yeah, they won the gold, but it wasn't cruise control, right? And they're, and that's not a knock on Steve Kerr. It's just a different game. It's coached differently. It flows differently. When to take your timeouts, when not to, when to make your rotations. It's much different in the NBA. There's not 48 minutes where you have a bit of freedom to make mistakes for a couple of minutes before you figure it out. You got to figure it out on the fly. So hopefully BA go the open slather. The spanner in the works is the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers again. So you're probably going to have a head coach, and then your assistant probably has to be Australia based to come and do those games, which I assume is going to go that way. You get your assistant to head coach those games for those qualifiers. But yeah, I mean, the names that have come up, I mean, the biggest one in Australia is Dean Vickerman, probably the best placed Australian based coach to be in the running. And then you go the route of maybe a Canada where you maybe just get I think it's Fernandez was his name.
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Yep.
You get an assistant or someone who's a interim head coach over there. Then you've also got the guys that were the assistants for Brian Goorjian, Matt Nielsen, Adam Caporn. I think their names are in the mix as well. Or then you go left field to Europe, or get a someone who's coached a FIBA game for a long time, a EuroLeague coach or someone like that over there, because I think they would look at this roster now and see an appeal. If you've coached FIBA for a while and you look at some of these teams that do really well, some of these European teams. I mean, Latvia is the one that came to mind. The way they played a couple of years ago was unbelievable. Moved the ball, played for each other, beautiful style of basketball. You go to that coach, like that roster you had was decent, but look at this roster. Maybe, and you got to write a check. So it'd be interesting to see where BA goes. But the process is obviously going to start probably in the next couple of months. And they got time, fortunately, because all the big tournaments are banked on to within an 18-month period where you go World Cup to Olympics. They're not, they don't need to be in an immediate rush, but I'm interested to see what direction they go.
Historically, they have had those kind of assistant / interim guys for like the Asia Cup and stuff, right? So that sounds like that wouldn't rush them along too much, but it sounds like they're going about it the right way. Like they're doing the proper interview process, actually assessing a larger number of candidates, not keeping it too in-house. But I think no matter what way they go, there's just pros and cons on every side, and it could just go either way. Like in terms of you go local, you get an NBL or Australia based coach, you know, you do run the risk of, you know, these high profile NBA guys coming over here and maybe not liking a thing or two they hear. And then all of a sudden, like the respect's gone, that they're not, you know, responding well. And then if you go the American route, he's a part-time coach. How invested is he in the program? Is he doing what he needs to be doing behind the scenes in terms of preparation, scouting, and all those things, when he's like got an NBA job that he's also working at the same time? It's a tough
And if
ask.
that goes into the finals,
yeah,
which we saw Green and Dante were pretty fatigued, like coming into this campaign. You know, you're coming from an NBA finals, maybe you get a week off if you're lucky to, and then, you know, you need your coach there, ready, fired up, fresh. It's hard as well. We saw that with Brett Brown at times. You know, it makes things tricky. Yeah,
and it's a big ask for them. So, like, obviously, it would be appealing to come into this team with the talent we have, but I just see there being problems, kind of no matter which way they go, which is tough for BA. And I think no matter what decision they make, they're going to cop it from the general public, because there's going to be those negatives. But I think as long as they approach it the right way, by which all accounts, what I'm hearing is what they're doing, I think that if they assess all the candidates and pick, you know, the best option depending on what kind of route they're looking to go, because it also depends on what sort of culture they're trying to set and whether or not they're trying to kind of shift the program in terms of like,
and long term, Brisbane, you know, you got to have an eye towards that as well. You got to have an eye towards, it can't just be next tournament. It has to be next tournament, but 20-30% of you needs to be like Roccos of the world, the Romans, these guys. How do we get them in the program, develop them, you know, kind of baby them now, so then in 3 or 4 years we have more retirements, bang, you can slot them in like a puzzle. I think that's been an issue for BA and national teams in general, but BA especially. There's been some cliff falls of you know, guys retiring, and then the next generation needs to be ready, and they're probably not ready. So you want to make sure that that's right. And now we've got that group of mid-20s guys, you know, Giddy and Green and all these kind of guys. That you know, Jock's 28, I think 29, so he's got at least 1 or 2 campaigns left in him. So Dante, you know, we've got some guys in their 20s that can hold this for another decade, right? I'm just going to make sure we do it the right way. So it's like you said, there's no right or wrong. I don't love the fly in, fly out. I think you probably need a bit more commitment. But then on the flip side, you know, you have an NBL coach doing it. Can they demand the respect on a consistent basis if they have to make some tough decisions where it's not just, I've been part of teams where it's guys are just kind of like, I don't know shit about basketball. You know, they're not in the NBA. Like, we need to play X style or Y style, and we need to do this like the NBA. It's like, well, that's where it gets really, really tricky. And you're not going to please everyone. You're going to have, you know, most teams have 2 to 3 disgruntled people in a locker room. That's just reality. Pro national team, you're going to have 2 or 3 guys that are pissed off with their role, pissed off with their minutes, pissed off with their touches. Perfectly normal. If that turns into 5 or 6, you have cancer spreading, and you're not going to do well. So it will be real interesting to see how they go. But I don't think they've formally opened it up yet to an interview process. I don't think they've announced what the process is going to be like and where it's going. I know they're formalizing or forming a coaching selection panel. So I've had some people reach out that are going to most likely be on that, which are some good people. So that'll be good. And hopefully they can get someone that is not only planning for the next tournament, but for the future.
Yeah, and not to ramble on too long, but like just on touching about the younger guys and getting them kind of prepared to be able to jump into these World Cups and Olympics, I think that's what BA did really well in the past. Like even looking at Paddy, yourself, and that group playing in those Oceania tournaments. I know we're in the different division and stuff now, but we have a tendency to kind of lean on some of our older guys that realistically probably won't be playing in our major tournament teams, where it'd be cool to see us kind of look at going down a younger route and getting like your Galloways, your Tuis, and like these kind of younger guys involved in those Asia Cup qualifier stuff, Asia Cup tournament even, I think would be great, because you know the level of talent isn't as high as like a world tournament, but it gives them a chance to kind of have the ball in their hands in a kind of bigger stage with, you know, representing Australia.
Which has kind of happened anyway, naturally, just because the NBA guys can't come back anyway because it's in season, and then the NBL has to pause for the FIBA break so those players can go and play. So, but you also have to be careful. Don't forget, we lost. I think was it Japan a couple of years ago? We lost a qualifier to them, I think.
Okay.
On the road, you want to just make sure that you are qualifying still, which our B and C team should arguably comfortably qualify.
Yeah.
But there can be some sketchy nights. I know we did we did lose a game over there. I'm not sure who was coaching that at the time, but yeah, you just got to be careful because it is important to qualify. And,
For sure.
But the Olympics, we get in no matter what, the best placed Oceania team. And then I think the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers just really are playing for seeding and where you end up in a seed. So
yeah, I think even the last Asia Cup, Will McDowell White makes sense, but and this is no disrespect, but your McCarrans, your Thon Makers, these guys that realistically, are you looking
older veterans?
Yeah, are you looking to have them on your future teams? Probably not.
Yeah.
So it'd just be cool to see
younger guys,
because Paddy was playing in these Oceania tournaments from 17, 18 years old, pretty young.
Yeah.
So it'd just be cool to see, I think, a better integration with some of the younger guys. I think we included Tyrese Proctor in that Asia Cup team where we won. That sort of stuff where you look towards
Dash Daniels.
you look towards the future a bit more in terms
Get
of
him in the
maybe
mix.
a selection
Especially
process.
getting him in the mix early to put on the green and gold.
Yeah.
With a lot of kids these days have dual passports and nationalities.
Yeah.
So the sooner you can put them on, even at a junior level, they still get out of it with some of the laws, but it's a better chance of keeping them in the program rather than pissing them off.
Yeah.
Or even the Ben Simmons route, right? They miss out on they get cut from an Oceania tournament and then they've had a grudge ever since, haven't played for the national team. That can also happen, which is, whether that's right or wrong from Ben's point of view, that is a reason why he hasn't played.
Just the reality.
And then any excuse to injury, too hard basket, you can't fault him for that. That's his decision. But yeah, you just want to make sure those young guys are integrated early, especially in those big pools. And then I still lean towards it. Look, it's hard as far as just finishing on the ramble. It's hard with national teams because you want to take your best 12 as a head coach. So your head coach is like, I want the best 12. But BA needs to tap on the shoulder and say, are you going to play all 12 of those guys? No. Well, let's look at roster 11, 12 spot, maybe being guys that can still play, but guys that are probably younger that we can have in the fold. I remember Shane Heal always telling me a story that when he went to Barcelona in '92, he didn't really play a minute. And I remember he's like, I was just cruising around the village eating ice creams, but I was in the mix as a 12th man, 11th man around Gaze and these guys, and I kind of was in the culture, understood what it was about, how we go about things. So then when it was my time in '96, it was like, bang, ready to go. And I think that's a great analogy into what needs to be done. You don't want to have 6 or 7 fresh faces every national team. You don't want to have a cliff edge. I was part of a cliff edge, which was 2000 Sydney cliff edge. All these guys that probably should have retired, not all of them, but some of them should have retired probably after 96, because 2000 was Sydney. Everyone was like, I need to get to Sydney, which is fair enough, no problem. Problem is, after Sydney ended, mass retirements, like 90% of the team retired. And then you're like, what's next? What happens after that? We lose to New Zealand in the qualifiers in 01. We lose to New Zealand in the qualifier. That's when Gorge first took over, because it was a fresh slate national team, never played together, all new guys. That's what you want to avoid. The good national teams manage to take 6 out of this generation that flow into that, and there's a new 6, and then it just keeps rolling on. I think when you go, but from a coach's point of view, you want your best players. So it's a bit of an argy-bargy there, but there definitely needs to be a look into that. And I think BA know that, especially with Brisbane around the corner as well, that want to perform well on home soil. So I think they'll be looking towards that. But we'll watch that space, and it gives Gorge more time to focus on the Sydney Kings and hopefully having another championship in the next couple of seasons. Wrap up pro with fact or fake news. What you got any, or did you blow your load early?
No, I did use it early, but Denver Nuggets will win less games than the Dallas Mavericks this year.
Fact. They will. So Denver Nuggets will lose less yet. Yeah.
So Denver Nuggets
will lose more. Sorry, Denver Nuggets will lose more games than Dallas.
So Dallas will be a higher seed than the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah. That's an easy one, bro. Come on, you got better than that, sure.
Oh wow, shots fired.
Sorry, I don't know the 9th man on the fucking Sydney Kings asshole. So I appreciate that.
You're looking at the finals, Western Conference Finals winners versus.
First of all, there's nothing to talk about in the NBA right now. I'm waiting for this guy. This guy's who shoots 26% for 3, is the best shooter. This guy who's in the strip club every night and beats his wife, found God again. So we haven't heard those stories out of NBA training camps yet. So there's really nothing to report about. I mean. Look what we talked about tonight. I mean, seriously.
Fair enough.
I think
I'll stop breaking your
I
balls.
think Daniel Gafford's podcast would get more views than us for this edition for this episode.
Shots drive-by for Gafford.
Yeah.
Jeez, bro.
I have no idea.
I hope he lives around you.
I'm looking at the Mavs roster right now. I just saw his name, so I had a fucking grab for it.
Well, surely you'd say it's fact then, right, bro?
What, that they'll win? That Dallas will win more than Denver?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just going to go on the opposite of what I think.
I knew he was going to do
Dallas
this.
Would win
That's
more.
why I asked him.
So
just because
I got it because I'm awful at this stuff. So I'm going to say the Denver Nuggets will win more.
What was the Mavs record last
Dallas
season?
Would win more.
49.
What's up?
What did Dallas win last season? 50s?
Dallas won 50-32. Denver was 57-25.
Actually, it's not
Don't
that
forget,
bad.
though.
It's not that bad because in Denver, it's a tough place to win because of the altitude.
They've just lost so
travel.
many key pieces.
They have, but teams just roll into Denver. The altitude, like by quarter time, guys are winded and tired. Your legs are gone. Maybe that plays in the part for Pro's argument. Maybe that's what he thought this out on that whiteboard behind him before he came on air and put some algorithms up. Got AI involved, and
this will be a post in 6 months. Mystic Pro is back.
I probably won't be on the show in 6 months, but I don't know. Like, my thing is with Dallas too. They won 7 West games, but they made the Gafford trade late. You know, they got off of Grant Williams late, and they were rolling in the second half of the year.
Yeah.
So imagine if they had that roster, that would have been a lot closer, in my opinion. The only thing is you gotta gamble on Kyrie being healthy all year, and
Clay.
he really hasn't been.
Yeah.
He had a great year last year, so I'm gonna go with
and
Denver.
Luka. I mean, they got 3 guards that have had injuries, right? Clay's come off some injuries.
Yeah.
Luka, you know, he's had some injuries in the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, but no Olympics this year, which is great. You know, he didn't really have to play a lot with the
qualifiers.
You know, he played that early on, so he had some time to rest for the first time in a couple of years. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Denver more than Dallas.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about something else, Trent? You got something you want to talk about? Any NBA thing that we didn't cover? Or
No. You guys covered off on all the key news. You're all good, Pro.
Yeah, not much this week for NBA stuff. More of a wrap. And that's about it, Pro. Thank you very much. We will see you in a couple of weeks, and then we will go back to 1 a week because Pro's protesting has got to me. So.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're not even a fucking podcast. We're just like, we're at a barbershop talking hoop once a month. I mean, give me a fucking break. I mean, what are we doing?
It's supposed to be.
It's great for me, yeah. I mean, you get your 12 or 14 clips you put on social media about being a genius of the league. And, we talk once a month, so we're good. Well, so what are we going to talk about at All-Star Break on our next show? Are we going to talk about
All-Star Break? I'm just glad you showed up on time for this one, Pro. We didn't have to text you 3 times. Just being the NBA guy.
I was like... That happened once when that happened once when Trent tried to overthrow me about 7 months ago.
There's a coup happening.
I felt like he was like what's the guy Phoenix from fucking Gladiator when he killed his dad and tried to take over the fucking coup.
Can't wait till you two guys meet one day. Just have it out.
Yeah, you have to pay for that flight. We know you ain't getting your fucking pockets for it, so don't worry about it. Hey, you saw Londale, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to his wedding. I heard you got an invite to the wedding. You didn't show up. Is that right?
Yeah, it cost me about $5 fucking grand to go, Bogues.
So that's the cost.
Again,
that's the cost of the friendship. $5 grand.
It would have been fucking nice if you would have flown me out there, you cheap prick.
I don't have a plane, mate.
That kid's only made about 30. He's only on the books for about not 12 million in his pro basketball career.
Yeah, I think
he's got more zeros.
I think his wedding. I think his wedding and his honeymoon did some damage to the old checkbook for old Jockster. Yeah, he went on like a month after.
I talked to him today.
It was good. A few NBA players were there. My son was happy, just rolling around getting autographs from all of them, which is interesting. Nice. I think Mikal Bridges, a few other guys were there, which is kind of cool to see. So a few guys from the Australian national team and nice little event out there. First time in London, so it was good to get out there, and we caught some nice weather actually.
What's the connection with Bridges and him?
Phoenix, I believe. Phoenix.
Phoenix. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, a couple of NBA players, and yeah, it was a good event. It was a good event out in the English countryside. We got, like I said, we lucked out with weather. It was sunny, clear and sunny for the whole week. We're there pretty much, bar one day. So everyone always says it's rainy and cold. So we got lucky there, and
Everyone was telling me I was going to get stabbed in London. Didn't get stabbed, so that was good.
How was it?
I enjoyed
How
London
was
a lot.
London?
I enjoyed. I've never been to London. Not basketball stuff, but I enjoyed it thoroughly. I think living there is a different story. Speaking to locals, there's a lot of frustration there, but visiting, historical, beautiful city, a lot of history there, a lot of beautiful buildings. Very busy though, man. Like it takes you almost an hour just to get out of the city, because London's
From the airport?
No, just London. We're in central London, just to get out of central London, out of the actual district of London, because there's East London and North London and all that.
Did you stay?
We were central.
Downtown,
we stayed
or
right downtown. I wanted to be amongst it, close everywhere. I went to an Arsenal game, which was awesome. First Premier League game I've been to, took the kids, and it was an awesome vibe. It was really cool. I had a really fun time. I got nothing bad to say about it. So I definitely will be back, especially for an EPL game. But I think living there is a little bit different than visiting. You know, when you visit cities and you speak to some of the locals and they're like, "Oh man, this is crap," or "This is," and then you're like, "I didn't see any of that," but I was only there for 5 days, stayed at a 5-star hotel, right? So you just kind of like everything was nice, right? You're not amongst it. But I think when you live in places, you kind of see the beyond the shield. But that was all good.
Bogues, you missed out on your time in Dallas. They get this thing called Adriatica now. It's right outside the city in McKinney, Texas. It's like 20 minutes from downtown. And it's supposed to be like a Croatian village on this lake.
Oh,
and
I heard it. No, I heard about this. Yeah. I think it was.
Yeah.
It was even when I was there. Still, there was something going on there.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah. It's a festival,
me and
right?
the family went. No, it's just like it's this apartment, like all these like communities that they made into like an Adriatic village.
Oh,
in this. They've got $1 million homes on top, but they've got other like just regular community homes and stuff like that. And they got all shops and things like that, but they made it to look like a Croatian village. It was pretty cool. So
good restaurants.
Next time you're in Dallas, man, me and you and I will go.
Yeah, I don't know. Next time you're in Dallas is next time. Next time I'm in Dallas is the next time you're in Australia.
Yeah, no doubt.
Unless Rick Carlisle re-signs with the Mavs, then I'll visit for sure. Until then.
Yeah, do that.
All right. Thanks. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, bro.
Absolutely.